Hey everybody, we are going to look at completing the square a little more in depth today. We first saw completing the square when we did chapter 12 and we talked about equations of circles. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to go and focus in a little more just on completing the square because it's going to be a big part of your test that's coming up. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with an equation that only has one variable in it. Okay, so this one doesn't have anything to do with a circle. Um, but what I want to do is I want to factor this equation by completing the square. So what I want you to notice here is that this number is not a perfect square. Okay, we have an x squared and an x and a number that's not a perfect square. If you have this, you want to dump it over to this side. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. So that I'm going to get x squared plus 6x equals 2. All right, now what we're going to do is, remember we talked about it last time. So we were wanting to find a number that is like x plus 2 quantity squared equals 0. Okay, something that's going to go right here. And remember, that's going to be the same thing as saying x plus 2, times x plus 2 equals 0. So we're finding out what numbers can go here that would make that work for this. So the way that we do that, again, is we take that b term, that positive 6 right here, and we are going to take that term, we're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. Now remember that whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to add that same number to both sides to keep my equation balanced. So this is going to be x squared plus 6x plus, now 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, is going to equal 2 plus, again, we just said that this was 9, so 2 plus 9 is 11. All right, so when we look at this, okay, I am now going to factor this. This is going to be x plus 3 quantity squared is going to equal 11. All right, so what we're looking at, okay, again, is if I look at this number right here, this positive 6 divided by 2, that is going to be the number that goes right here. All right. Now, if I wanted to solve it, I would set each of these equal to 0 and go from there. But right now, this is really all I want to do, and this is where I want to stop because this is the part that's going to apply to circles. All right, so let's take another look at another example. Now we're dealing with an x squared and a y squared. So this is an equation of a circle, all right, and we want to find the center and the radius. So remember that in order to find the center of the radius, we need to remember what the equation of a circle is. And it's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared, and that is equal to your radius squared. All right? So I want to turn this equation to make it into this format and make it look like this. All right? So I've got an x squared and an x over on this side. I've got a y squared and a y over on this side. And I have my constants over on the right side of the equation. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing to this piece that I did in example 1. Okay. I'm going to do x squared plus 4x. Okay. This is my b term because remember it's ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm going to take it and I'm going to divide it by 2 and I'm going to square it. All right. And I'm going to take my negative 4 and I'm going to add it to both sides. So that 4 over 2 squared, we're going to add to both sides. Now we look at the y part. We're going to do the same thing. We have y squared minus 6y. Now my b term is that negative 6. So I'm going to add negative 6 divided by 2, and I'm going to square that. And again, I'm going to add that to both sides. Negative 6 divided by 2 squared. Okay, so I took my x's and I did the same thing. I took my y's and I did that part just like I did with my x's. So you kind of treat it like two different problems for just a minute. So let's take a look at what this gives us. This is going to give us x squared plus 4x plus, now 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. And then I have y squared minus 6y. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. So this is going to equal negative 4 plus 9. Okay, that's what these are. So now I'm going to do the same thing that we did again in the last example, but again, I'm going to look at the x's first, and then I'm going to look at the y's. So when I look at my x's, okay, remember, I'm finding what times itself squared is going to go right here. All right, and again, it is this term before it has been squared is going to go right here. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is x plus 2 squared. Now, same thing for y. It's going to be y plus something squared here. And I'm going to take this term, I'm going to put it down here. Well, negative 6 divided by 2 is a negative 3. And then negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So this is going to equal 9. So now to find the center, I can just look at the equation of my circle. And remember, the standard equation is subtracting. So what am I subtracting here? I'm subtracting a negative 2. What am I subtracting here? I'm subtracting a positive 3. This is r squared, so I'm going to square root this to get my radius, which is 3. Okay, so this is my answer. Again, completing the square, guys, is going to be a big part of what you're going to see on your test. So it's really important that you do understand how to do this. All right, we're going to take a look at another example, then we're going to have you try one on your own. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. Now, notice what's different from this one. Everything is set equal to 0. And my x's aren't together, my y's aren't together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this equation, and I'm going to put my x's together. So I'm going to have x squared plus 2x, and then I'm going to put my y's together. Plus y squared plus 8y. And this is not a nice number, so I'm going to put it over here. So that's going to equal a positive 8, because I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Okay, so you're going to take your constants, put them over to the right side of your equation, and then group up your x's and your y's. Now we have the same equation, or the same type of equation that we had in example 2. All right, so I'm going to do x squared plus 2x plus, and I'm going to take my middle term, divide it by 2, and square it. Okay, and then I'm going to have my y squared plus 8y. And I'm going to take my b term here, divide it by 2, and square it. That will equal 8 plus, remember, what I added to both sides. So 2 over 2 squared and 8 over 2 squared. All right, so let's take a look at what this reduces down to. So this is going to give me x squared plus 2x. 2 over 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Okay, then we have y squared plus 8y. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So this will equal 8 plus 1 plus 16. All right, so then again, I'm going to work with just my x's and the piece that goes with that. All right, so this is going to be x. Then I'm going to take this term and put it in here. 2 divided by 2 is a positive 1, so it's x plus 1 quantity squared. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with my y's. My term right here is what's going to go down in here. 8 divided by 2 is a positive 4, so it's going to be 8 plus 4 squared. 8 plus 1 is 9, and 9 plus 16 is 25. So now again, my center, this is x minus a negative 1, so it's negative 1 for my y, or for my x, excuse me, and then y plus 4 is y minus a negative 4, so it's y minus 4. And then my radius, remember that this is r squared, so when I square root that, I'm going to get 5. Okay, so this is my center and radius of the circle whose equation is given to me, okay, of this equation. So what I want you to do is go ahead and try this one on your own. So go ahead and pause the video right now and see if you can set this up and do it by yourself. Remember, you want to group your x's together, you You want to group your y's together, and you want to move all of your constants over to the right. All right, so go ahead, pause your video, and give it a try. All right, so go ahead and check your answers. This should be your center and your radius. Okay, again, remember, you're grouping your x's together. Then you're going to divide that middle term by 2 and square it. Okay, so that's where my plus 9 comes from. Grouping my y's together, divide that b term by 2 and square it. So that's where the 25 comes from. And remember, you have to add it to both sides of the equation. Okay, then remember, it's this term right here that's going to go here. And this term right here, that's going to go right here. Okay, because these are negatives, you should be subtracting. All right. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure you write them down and let me know at all if there's anything you guys need. Again, this is something that's really important. If you look at the back of your worksheet, that is going to be your homework for today or your classwork. Just make sure you get those problems done. All right. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys later.